Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is keeping cool in the summer heat wave here in the UK. Ben Davison was on this week on Talk Sport, being interviewed by Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver, and he covered the now infamous roll the dice incident in which Anthony Joshua, when he got beaten by Daniel Dubois, beaten convincingly, almost beaten to another universe. It was that bad and that one-sided. But there was a lot of controversy after that, and a lot of blame fell at Ben Davison's door for the roll the dice incident and the advice to throw the double jab and then bring it up afterwards. Double jab followed by the uppercut. And I made a video at the time after this, sort of talking about how, to me, Ben Davison was taking a lot of the blame for that and almost a bit of a scapegoat in the public arena for his sort of bad advice. Famously, in between rounds on the TV commentary, Shane McGuigan said that was bad advice, that was the wrong thing to do. And you can understand why Shane McGuigan was saying that, but I made a video after that sort of saying I didn't think Ben Davison was to blame, because when you look at what led to Joshua getting knocked out, he threw an uppercut from the outside, from distance, from a long way out, really scooped it up from a long way, leaving his jaw unprotected for the right hand, in which he got stopped with in the end. Now, Ben Davison's advice was to throw the double jab, and this is what he explained on Talk Sport. He said the advice was to, because Dubois was ducking underneath the right hand, and he was doing that repeatedly, then the advice was to throw the double jab. Sorry, on my left, it was to throw the double jab, bring it up. Now, the roll the dice comments was apparently how Ben Davison described it as, that was what they'd worked in the gym, and that's kind of what they called that in the gym. They called going double jab, right uppercut as rolling the dice. So it wasn't roll the dice in the way that a lot of people interpreted that to be, as roll the dice in, let's gamble, let's take a chance. And that's really what a lot of people had a problem with, because Joshua was really badly hurt at that point. A lot of people sort of said, and maybe correctly so, that he should take a couple of rounds to clear his head. But you must remember, first off, 2 points when it comes to the criticism about rolling the dice, even though that's not what Ben Davison says rolling the dice actually meant. You've got to remember, before this point, Joshua wasn't throwing the uppercut. He wasn't throwing a double jab and bringing it up. He was relying on the right hand, and he had found himself on the floor and hurt numerous occasions up till this point, and the fight was nearly over anyway. So saying that the uppercut was bad advice was kind of like, well, he hadn't been advised to throw the uppercut prior to that, and he almost lost the fight, basically lost the fight as it was. But Ben Davison said he was ducking underneath. Now, I've no doubt that when they drilled this, they said this was a move that was drilled, that when they drilled it, it would have been double jab. So it would have been a double jab, bring it up, and he would have disguised that, almost feinted that uppercut as a right hand. So he would have thrown a double jab, gone for the right hand, but kind of motion, feinted as a right hand, then brought it up, turned it into an uppercut. So as he's throwing the double jab, Dubois he's throwing the double jab, Dubois anticipates the right hand, you feint as you throw the right hand, but you actually turn up, bring it into the uppercut, and then Dubois, as Ben Davison said, ducks and falls onto the uppercut, and you catch him as you bring it up. So that was the advice, and like I said, I made a video after that explaining my thoughts on that, and that when you looked at what led to Joshua losing that fight was throwing an uppercut from the outside, from a long way out, leaving a massive hole. And it was it wasn't really a straight right hand he got there, it was more of a sort of a hook, or almost hook come sort of right hand he threw that Dubois stopped him with. So I kind of agree with Ben Davison. Ben Davison did sit there and say, Ben Davison said, look, I might have got it wrong. As we all get it wrong. He might have got it wrong. That might not have been the best advice. But at that point, now a lot of people said that sort of Joshua was just starting to edge his way back into it at that point, and he should have took a few rounds and got himself back together where he could have recovered from the previous damage enough to then sustain a safer attack. Well, Joshua had come to that fight fresh without any damage, and to say that he should have took a few rounds to try and not sustain any more damage and let his head clear, I don't think Dubois would have let that happen. I don't think Joshua could have done anything at that point really to keep Dubois off to the point that bought him 2 rounds where he avoided any damage at all. Joshua didn't start out trying to take damage. he didn't really have a choice in the damage he took. Yes, he made all the technical mistakes, and yes, he did a lot of things wrong. But I don't think really to think that Joshua could have took 2 rounds and not sustain any damage and recuperate and clear his head and come back as a fresh fighter to then reignite his attack, if you like, I don't think would have worked. So you can argue all day long about was the uppercut the best shot in the situation to throw. But the fact is this, he wasn't instructed to throw the uppercut prior to that, and he got beaten out of sight and almost stopped before that point. So I tend to agree with Ben Davison. You know, if he's going to come underneath and duck onto, or duck underneath the straight right hand, and duck underneath the straight right hand, then you can bring him onto the uppercut, can't you? You can disguise the uppercut, you can disguise that as a straight right hand, as you go to throw it, as you bring it over the top as a straight, but you can feint that and still throw the uppercuts. You can still feint him onto ducking under right hand, which you then bring up. So I tend to agree with Ben Davison. I tend to agree with what he was saying. And actually, he may have got it wrong. But, you know, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon and saw Ben Davison's advice as what led to him to that defeat in the manner in which he got it. No, it wasn't. Not once did Ben Davison say, bring it up from the outside from distance. Because that is suicidal advice, of which he never did. So, you know, like I said, I made a video about that at the time. I just wanted to, I agree with Ben Davison. It's something they'd worked on, it's something they'd drilled. I don't think roll the dice from what Ben Davison was saying meant let's fucking gamble, go for broke, leave defence aside and just hope we land a punch from the gods. I think it was a drill. I think that's what that drill was called. That's what I kind of thought Ben Davison was trying to get across. But it was an interesting interview with Ben Davison. He's a very cerebral trainer and always got some really good things to say. Also this week, and I can only assume this is true, it's been reported in many sort of outlets, that the Border Control has banned the use of saunas for making weight on the back of Eubank's footage he released of him trying to make the weight, in which he failed by, I think 0.3 of a pound at one point. So they've banned the use of saunas on the back of Eubank Jr. putting footage out there. Now, this just stinks of let's try and a bit of a PR cover-up to try and cover ourselves for a way that fucking 90% of fighters have been making weight since the dawn of time with saunas and other techniques. The problem is taking away the use of making weight in a sauna is you then have the situation where fighters are now, there are other techniques. There's the hot bath. There is the wrap yourselves up in duvets and try and sleep with the heating up full. That's another technique. Like I said, the hot baths, the duvets, the towels. And then if you take away, because you could call, there's a I forget that it's called NEAT, and it's basically how many calories you use through non-exercise, basically at rest. Now, when you're making weight in a sauna, you're not exerting yourself. Yes, you're sweating out water and salts and other stuff, which makes it dangerous. But if you take away, say, static ways of making weights, which being in a sauna would be, being in a bath would be, sleeping or wrapping yourself up in duvets would be, you're not exerting. None of these ways of making weight are healthy and conducive to, a long, healthy life, in short. But if you're going to ban one static way of making weight, the use of a sauna, that means you then have to go to, and this is another way that fighters have always made weight, is exerting yourself inside a sweatsuit, which is fucking awful. Done it myself. Horrible. When you come and take that sweatsuit off or empty that sweatsuit out, the fucking liters of salty body fluid that comes out of that is fucking disgusting. But I would imagine it's far more harmful to be now relying on exertion plus a sweatsuit. You're in the sweatsuit, you're hot, the same as you'd be in the shower, but now you're pushing your heart rate and your blood pressure up even more by exerting yourself trying to make the rate rather than you are when you do it in a static situation, i.e. a sauna. What will happen? Will they, on the back of banning saunas, will they ban the use of hot baths? And then on the back of banning the use of hot baths, will they ban duvets, hot towels, heating up? Will they ban that way of making weight? And then fighters will be forced into making weight through heat and exhaustion, not just heat and then static. So I just thought that was from the board really for people who are kind of, what should we say, casuals who don't really understand the way that what weight is made, and because the whole Ben Eubank fight crossed over to the mainstream massively, I suppose you had non-boxing people who have seen Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, I'm not even sure I saw video of Eubank coming out of a sauna. I'm assuming it was out there because this band seems to come on the back of that. But maybe there was uproar amongst the casual fan, and the fact that Eubank had put this footage out there and kind of opened the door a little bit, pulled the curtain back a little bit, and now people were seeing how fighters make weight. All of us who've been involved in the game know how fighters make weight. This is no secret. It just stunk a little bit from the board to me, because you're just, something has now become visible and now you're going to ban it just because people have seen it. You were fine with it before. Everyone knew it went on before, but now because the door's been opened and the curtain's been pulled back and the public have seen it, now you've decided to ban it. So you've now limited ways in which a fighter can lose weight in a static situation through dehydrating. But now are you going to force fighters into doing it through non-static situations where you're having to work? You're having to physically work with sweatsuits, physically work in a hot environment and sweat out that stuff while exerting yourself. I don't know. What do you think? I just think that the board to me was just sort of ticking boxes in a public relations department and trying to be seen to be doing the right thing, when really I don't think they're really doing the right thing. I think the right thing has to be taken upon by fighters and managers in the game in general. Fighters just fighting at fucking more natural weights. I mean, the whole weight making thing, I mean, Joe Stunner talks about this quite often, and you get to the point of diminishing returns, and that is 100% true. If you look at fighters like Usyk who have gone up to heavyweight, so you could argue boxing under his natural weight, boxing over his natural weight rather than under his natural weight, and you look at what he's achieved, and I know the margins are different at heavyweight than they are farther down the weights, but you have to look at fighters, and Canelo as well, who boxed. Unless you talk PEDs, leave that aside. But we look at Canelo, who's boxed above his natural weight for quite a lot of his career, and it hasn't harmed him, has it? You look at Usyk's career and Canelo's career, and I know you're going to say PEDs with Canelo, but nonetheless, he still had a significantly fucking fantastic career, and Usyk fighting possibly above their natural weight. So if that isn't a lesson, I don't know what is. Anyway, that was it. It's been a while. I hope you're well, and I'll see you all soon.